Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Universal Studios Florida today. Got a treat. I know you guys have been waiting, so finally we're gonna dig into 5 things that Universal does better than Walt Disney World. But here's the thing, it's not 5, it's 10. And I know what you're thinking, Kat, how could that possibly be the case? But listen, I've been paying close attention to the way that Universal does things here in Orlando, and you know, we're at Walt Disney World all the time, so I don't know that I'd say I'm uniquely qualified to give you 10 things, but I think that I would say that I'm qualified enough. So today we're gonna go through the park, we're gonna have a good time doing it, we're gonna try and stay cool, because it is a toasty one today. Catch the shade where we can, maybe go on an attraction or two. I don't know what the situation's gonna be, because it is creeping up on Memorial Day, so there are a lot of people here today, and we made our way here a little bit later than we normally would have, getting into the park after 10 a.m. so you know, take that for what it's worth. Nonetheless, we're still gonna have a great time, and I think this is gonna be a doozy of a discussion, so buckle in and let's have a great day. All right, well look, we don't have to go far to find the first thing that Universal does better than Disney, and that is thrills. Of course, we're right down the way from Rip Ride Rocket, which we have yet to ride, but this is far from the only really thrilling attraction here. In fact, I think it's safe to say that one of the things that people really love about Universal, probably one of the things that they're most known for, are their thrill rides. Now, of course, different strokes for different folks, right? Like, not everyone loves really thrilling attractions, but if you do, I don't think that there's any competition. Universal is a better fit. The next thing that Universal does far better than Walt Disney World is actually something we're coming up on now, and that's live entertainment, Streetmosphere. Now I know what some of you are thinking, hold on a second, that used to be Disney's thing, but not anymore. Almost everywhere you go here at Universal Orlando, whether it's here at Universal Studios or over at Islands of Adventure, there's something going on that you're probably gonna stumble into, whether it's dancers like the ones that we just saw, who were dancing with the crowd, by the way, which is just so much fun. Storytellers over in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, or the Bee Builders, which do their thing actually right over there. The Blues Brothers, there's so much happening here all the time. And that's of course not even to mention all of the character meet and greets that are available throughout the parks as well. So there's a lot going on in terms of Streetmosphere and stuff you can just stumble into while wandering through Universal Orlando, and that's definitely better than what Disney's doing, which is basically nothing right now. And that is one hell of a shame. Now the next thing we have to talk about, because I think Universal knocks it out of the park in comparison to Walt Disney World, is quick service dining. Now, if you've been following along with some of my Universal adventures, this might take you by surprise, because I've said some not great things about Universal dining options. I don't really think they're all that impressive. Sometimes I think that we've stumbled upon some really great dishes, but I also think that the pricing is a little bit higher than what you'd pay at Walt Disney World. And I stand by that, at least thus far. There are so many other places that we need to try, but there's one thing that I absolutely cannot argue with, and that is that overall, Universal executes quick service dining so much better than Walt Disney World. And I'm not just talking about one thing, like theming or the food itself or the quality of the food. I mean, that can vary depending on a number of factors, but I'm talking about just the way that they do quick service, what the experience eating quick service here at Universal is like versus at Walt Disney World. Overall, at all of the places that we've eaten thus far, it feels so much more like an actual dining experience, like a table service dining experience, even though it's quick service, versus what you get over at Walt Disney World, which feels very cafeteria-like. Going up to a counter, ordering your food, or I say cafeteria, but I should probably say fast food-like. Feels much more like you're eating at a McDonald's when you go to pretty much anywhere at Walt Disney World. You have to go to a counter, order your food, or go collect your food and then hope that you can find a place to sit. That's not the situation here at Universal, at least not for the places that we've eaten thus far. While they do still have mobile order here at Universal, just like they do at Walt Disney World, it's a much more organized system where once you've made your order, you find a table, you pop it into the app, and then your food is brought to you. It's on dishes, you're not eating with plastic cutlery, and I really love that. It elevates the experience, even though the price isn't as high as you'd expect to pay from a table service dining location. This is very similar to what we see at places like Primo Piatto over at Disney's Riviera Resort, and we love Primo Piatto for the experience that it provides, on top of the fact that it's really great food. Here at Universal, you get that experience at a lot of different dining locations, not just one or two, and I do think that that is great, and it just shows that it can be done a little bit better, and simply put, Universal does it better. The next thing that Universal does so much better than Walt Disney World is annual passes, just in general. Now, I have an annual pass top tier annual pass, that is, here at Universal. I have the top tier annual pass over at Walt Disney World. Now, both of the annual passes, the top tier annual passes, are comparable in price, especially if you break them down by the number of parks that you have access to. Here at Universal, it's currently 2. Over at Walt Disney World, it's 4. Universal actually comes out as being a little bit more expensive, but I don't even mind, because the number of perks that you have here at Universal as an annual pass holder, it's quite the list. And it's some really beneficial perks, as opposed to just being stuff that they toss at you to bolster the fact that you're buying an annual pass. So we do have access to a lounge, we have free prime parking, we have free valet. Not only do we have discounts on merchandise and at table service restaurants, we also have discounts at quick service restaurants as well. But the top tier annual pass here at Universal also has express pass after 4 p.m. Oh, and early park entry. So that's pretty great. And there are other perks that are available to you that I just don't know off the top of my head, because they're not perks that I would necessarily use daily. I think a rental car discount is available to annual pass holders here at Universal Orlando as well. But even just the basics, the stuff that you can use every single time you use your annual pass, most of that is stuff that Disney doesn't offer. You don't have free preferred parking or discounts on quick service dining. There's no lounge, at least not regularly available to you, and you definitely don't get Genie Plus. So definitely a better annual pass option, at least in my opinion, here at Universal compared to Walt Disney World. All right, I just popped into the Men in Black gift shop, and that reminds me of another thing that I think Universal does better than Disney, and that is attraction merchandise. Now, I don't know about you, but I absolutely love buying merchandise from my favorite attractions. You know, like, you wait in line, you ride the attraction, you absolutely love it, and you want a t-shirt or you want something, you know? And that used to be a thing pretty much anywhere you went, but I feel like times have changed, and now you don't get the selection that you used to. And at places like Walt Disney World, you don't get any selection at all most of the time. Lots of generic stuff fills the shelves, but not here. Not here at Universal. There are some generic things, don't get me wrong, but you can still get merchandise for your favorite attraction, and other fun merchandise as well that's still themed to the attraction, like this. I like this hoodie right here. Let's take a look. I mean, just look at that. So cute. Now, the next thing that we have to talk about, because Universal does it so much better than Walt Disney World, is a skip the line service, which here at Universal is called Express Pass. At Walt Disney World, it's called Genie Plus. Now, skip the line services aren't something that are unique to Walt Disney World or Universal. They're used by theme parks and amusement parks around the country, probably even around the world. And they can be fantastic, because who wants to wait in a standby line? You know, some people would rather just pay a little bit more and skip at least some of the line. And that's something that you're promised both at Universal as well as Walt Disney World. But at Walt Disney World, it's a little bit more complicated. It requires an app. You need to keep checking back 4 times. You need to schedule when you want to ride different attractions. You don't have to do any of that here at Universal. In fact, you don't have to do pretty much anything here at Universal. When you buy Express Pass, or if you have an annual pass like I do that has Express Pass after 4, you just go to the attraction you want to ride, show them your pass, and go in the express lane. It's as simple as that. Now, there are a couple different types of Express Pass here at Universal. You do have an Express Pass that allow you to go on every attraction that offers Express Pass once, and then there's an unlimited Express Pass that'll allow you to use your Express Pass multiple times for the same attraction. So let's say you want to ride Velocicoaster again and again and again. If you have that unlimited Express Pass, that more expensive Express Pass, you can absolutely do that, whereas the standard Express Pass is a one and done. Both are fantastic options. Both are expensive. There's no way around that. Although Universal does have a lot of alternatives. You can stay at one of their premier hotels and get Express Pass for free for your family for the duration of your stay, which is a fantastic deal. That's something we'll talk a little bit more about in the future. But all in all, the way that the Skip the Line service works here at Universal is much easier. It's a much better system because since it is so expensive, it's so hard to get Express Pass. It's not something that everyone is going to do, so you can really cut down on your wait times, cutting the line at least in half, based on my experience thus far. Of course, one of these days we're gonna have to do a comparison and see how much time we can actually save using Express Pass compared to the standby line. If that's something you wanna see, let us know in a comment down below. It's on our list of things to do, so I think that we'll get around to it eventually. But if it's something you're super interested in, like I said, let me know and we'll bump it to the top of the list. Now, while we're on the topic of lines and while I want a little snack, I do have some mixed berries here I'm gonna chow on. We can't skip over the next thing that Universal definitely does better than Walt Disney World, and that is single rider lines. While Universal and Walt Disney World both have single rider line options, here at Universal there are so many of them. And look, they're not always open, especially at the beginning of the day, and they're not going to be for everybody because if you do go in the single rider line, you will have your party split up. But they are a great way to cut down on wait times, especially if your party doesn't mind being split up, and so many attractions have it here at Universal, and that's such a stark contrast to Walt Disney World that only has 4. Now you might be wondering, Kat, why does it matter if Universal does single rider line and Walt Disney World doesn't? Or at least that Universal does it better than Disney? Like, isn't this a stretch? I mean, you could argue that it is a stretch, but I don't think so. You know, just the other day, or yesterday was it, we were discussing crowd control and managing crowds to keep lines shorter. And one of the ways that you can do that is by deploying single rider lines. It fills up those empty spaces, it gets the crowds moving, and ultimately it makes for a better overall park experience. And that's why I think it's worth mentioning. So, yeah, Universal just does it better. Another thing that Universal definitely does better than Walt Disney World is gives guests hydration options. Now again, this is one of those little things that's easy to overlook, but if you're here at the parks all the time and you don't want to be doing the whole pack mule thing with a backpack filled with water bottles, it's nice to have a place to refill. It's even nicer when those options include ice machines, which are all over the place here at Universal thanks to their Coke Freestyle machines. In fact, I'm gonna go refill my cup right now with some water and ice. Should be right around this corner. Yep, all filled up with some ice water and ready to go. Yeah, by the way, water parks, Walt Disney World Water Parks cup we're working with today. What are you gonna say about it? It's cold and wet. That's good. Also, along the lines of hydration, here at Universal, they have those Coke Freestyle machines, which I mentioned just a second ago. You can purchase a cup that you can refill all day long. It's like 18 bucks for the most affordable cup. Pass holder discounts do apply. And then something like $12, forgive me if I'm off here, to refill for another day. So you buy one cup, you pay every day to be able to refill your cup all day long. And of course you can refill at those Coke Freestyle locations. At first I wasn't entirely sure how much I liked this or if I would like this, but I got myself a cup, got Russ a cup, and honestly, we love it. It is so great. Now today, I didn't bring my cup with me. I figured I was just gonna go with water and liquid IV, which is exactly what I did. But I've used my cup a few times when spending the day here at Universal, and there's nothing like it. Just being able to hydrate with something sweet and delicious. They have so many different options, so many different flavor options, including things like vitamin water, as well as sodas and whatnot. Not only is it a stellar deal, but it keeps you hydrated, which is exactly what you need here in Central Florida, especially during the summertime, but all times of year, if we're being honest. As a little bit of an honorable mention as well, because I didn't count this in our list of 10 things that I think Universal does better as its own thing, but since it is related to the freestyle machines, I think that Universal does a better job at keeping guests in the parks. Now you could argue that that means Universal just does a better job at doing theme parks, and I can't disagree, but the goal is to keep people in the parks longer so that they spend more money, they buy more food, they do all of that. It's so much easier to do that here at Universal because you have things like these Coke Freestyle machines. You can eat at quick service locations, actually sitting at a table inside. Air conditioning is crisp and cool, so just wanted to add that as a little bit of an honorable mention. Of course, we've talked more about this type of thing in the past, but I just wanted to slip that in there. All right, we've got 2 more things to knock out between now and getting to the Jeep. It's also getting really toasty, so we'll see if we can find some shade so that we can chat about these things, but not before we duck into the Universal Studios store and catch some ice cold air conditioning. Sound good?
A few moments later.
All right, next up on our list, and I know some of you are definitely not gonna like this, but doesn't make it any less true, Universal does attractions better than Walt Disney World does. I know, I told you weren't gonna like this, because a lot of you feel something warm and fuzzy for Walt Disney World, and I totally get that. So do I. But overall, the attractions here at Universal are not only better attractions, more interesting attractions in my opinion, but they also are better themed and better kept. And yes, I know, it pains me to say, because I love Walt Disney World just as much as some of you do, but it's hard to ignore just how run down some of the attractions are over there, and even some of the new attractions just don't have the attention to detail that they probably should. I mean, when was the last time you saw plywood in Walt Disney World and could easily identify it? I can name 2 attractions, including Tron Light Cycle Run and Rise of the Resistance. 2 relatively new attractions that have great theming, but yet had some corners cut. I've yet to find even one attraction here at Universal that has corners cut in the same way. In fact, some of the opening day attractions here at Universal, E.T. is one of them, is still mind-blowing, even though it's an opening day attraction. It's well kept, it's a fun ride. I can't say the same for the attractions over at Disney. Sad but true. And finally, the last thing that Universal does better than Disney, parking. Now, let's be clear about something. Epic Universe is going to open, and I might take this away, okay? But at least currently, it's a better situation to park here at Universal than it is to park at Walt Disney World. And the reason for that, which is quite simple, it's a parking garage, not a surface lot. So despite the fact that it's still hot, despite the fact that you still have to do a little bit of walking since most people are parked up as opposed to out, it's not a ton of walking, and you're not baking in the sun the entire time, which is good. Here's the downside though, which is why I say I might take this back when Epic Universe opens. Epic Universe is supposed to have a surface lot, not a parking garage, which means they might run into the same problem that Disney does. So I might take this back, but that's a whole nother list for a whole nother time. But for now, that's my list of not only 5, but 10 things that Universal does better than Walt Disney World. Of course, I want to know what you guys have to say. And yes, I'm sure there are things that I left off this list, so make sure that you remind me of them in a comment down below. Also, try and keep in mind, this isn't intended to be a harsh criticism of Walt Disney World. It's just a comparison between the two based on observations that I've made since I became an annual pass holder and have been visiting both of these parks or both of these resorts regularly. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. What are some things that you think Universal does better than Walt Disney World? What are some things that you think Walt Disney World could learn from the way that Universal does things? I want to hear it all in a comment. But for now, I think it's time for me to wipe down, make my way out. I hope you had fun hanging out with me today, and I look forward to our next adventure together. Until then, bye guys.